Who doesn't like to talk about fabric? Fabric is one of the most important ingredients of paper foundation piecing. It can really make or break your finished block. So let's talk a little bit about how to select the right fabrics for paper foundation piecing so that your block has the right amount of pizzazz and pow that you want it to. Right here in front of me, I have two different groupings of fabric. These are great groups to get started with when you're paper foundation piecing. The first area of fabric here is some beautiful solid fabrics. I love solid fabrics. Solid fabrics aren't for everyone. I've talked to a lot of groups of quilters who say that solid fabrics are boring, that they don't have enough interest or dynamic nature to them. To those people, I say add some interesting quilting stitches on top and they will be just as dynamic as your favorite print. The one thing that works beautifully about solid fabrics in paper foundation piecing is they are super crisp. Because they are so flat, you see those seams, those intricate seams that we're working hard to create in paper foundation piecing in a much more beautiful way. You don't have any seams that are perhaps blurring into one another because you have prints that are similar, for example. So solid fabrics can be a really great choice for paper foundation piecing. Another great alternative, if you're more of a print kind of girl, and that's okay, are using small scale prints. You'll notice that all of these prints for the most part are smaller than my fingernail. They're also mostly very tonal or perhaps with just a bit of white in them. They read one color. They don't read as a multicolored print. Multicolored prints can be fantastic, don't get me wrong, in the right place, but paper foundation piecing typically isn't that place. With paper foundation piecing, you really want fabrics that read as one color, so solids and small scale prints are great for this. You can also utilize prints that have just a little bit of white in them. You don't want too much white because that can detract from that color that you want those fabrics to read as. But a little bit of white in a polka dot, for example, can work out really nicely. So these are good fabrics. What would be not so good fabrics? Now don't get me wrong, everybody has fabrics that they love in their stash and fabrics that perhaps they just don't use very often. And I have to say that these kinds of fabrics tend to be those that I don't use quite as much. I love them, don't get me wrong, and in the right kind of quilt they're beautiful. But you'll notice that these fabrics are mostly multicolored. They have more than one color to them. They have large prints like this beautiful large flower. It's beautiful. I love it, but if I cut it into a small piece for a paper foundation piecing block, I'm going to lose that. Not only that, if I cut this, I'm losing all of the aqua. I wind up with a completely different color than it looked like initially. So these kinds of prints are great for things like backings or large patchwork. Paper foundation piecing, not so much, sorry to say. So hang on to these kinds of fabrics for another kind of project.